watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to this edition of Dufferin Life. I'm your host, Teena Avery. Thank you so much for joining me. Are you ever just sitting around and kind of wondering, like, you know, you want to stay in the know of what's going on, but you don't always know where to find where the know is, and then you don't really know what's going on, and someone tells you something that's going on, and yet then you're like, well, is that really exactly how it's going? Well, you know what? Joining me today, we have somebody who's in the know and knows what's going on. Deputy Mayor Todd Taylor, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Teena. Thank you for having me here.
It is a pleasure, and we just realized this is the first time that you've been on my show.
I am so disappointed that I've never been invited until now, so this is just
well,
wonderful.
You know what?
Thank
I've just been
me.
saving it up. I've been saving it up for this
Sofa's
for this
comfortable.
one. Yep.
The rug is beautiful. Thanks for having me.
It is truly my pleasure. So you've been on town council for a little while now. Let's talk a little bit about how it works with town council. Does everybody get along? I mean, we want to be in the know, so we want the scoop of
what's
what
the
happens.
scoop, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say, like, on balance, like, certainly there is issues where people are coming at it from different ways, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you for this term in particular, it's just been a joy, an absolute joy. And not to say that folks don't have different ideas and there is different discussions. You know, the mayor and I, she's a close friend. She's someone I think very highly of. But she is got a different mindset on some things. So behind the scenes, we'll argue like brother and sister and discuss an issue and trying our best to work it out. And then we get into council and she'll vote one way, I'll vote the other. But in all honesty, that is rare. Like, for the most part, we tend to see it the same way, and you know, we're working to find the best solution. And the rest of council, I'm using the mayor because she's the head of council, but the rest of council is the same. It's a group of very thoughtful people, and what I like about it the most is when we disagree on an issue, which we do, you're on to the next issue. And the last issue that you disagreed on, it doesn't matter. You're not angry because it didn't go your way. You're just on to the next issue. And that's how it needs to work.
Well, I think as a community, we want to know that, like, or we need to know that you're not all of the same opinion, all agreeing. Like, you want to know that there are people that are taking their different perspectives and looking at things in objective light, and then discussing it and then coming to some solution, whether, as you said, whether they agree with you or whether they agree with somebody else that's opposing you, whatever happens. You want to know as a community that there's people there voicing their opinions. And
I think that's spot on, but a healthy debate has a disagreement, right? Like, you have to have a disagreement, but that disagreement doesn't have to be yelling and screaming and slamming doors.
Absolutely.
It can be a very healthy exchange of ideas, and then you arrive at an idea that collectively everybody can handle. And I think that's what's really good about this council. Like, people are respectful of those ideas. Like, there's some left-leaning people if you're going to the political spectrum, and I'd say I'm maybe a little more right-leaning on council than perhaps others are, but it's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter where you are. It's the ideation of how you're going to get to solve something, and I got to tell you, it's immensely satisfying. Like, it makes you feel good, and I think people are seeing this term, I hope they're seeing that people are coming prepared. They've read their information. They've asked staff the questions that they need to get to have clarity to understand what the issues are, and they're prepared to have that discussion, and they're showing up in a way that is going to enable a respectful conversation. Like, I don't think people want to see us screaming and yelling and carrying on. They want to see people that are representing their town and they can be proud of them. And you may not agree with what we say or what we do or what I personally say or what I do, and that's just fine. I think that's great. But at least democracy is working and it's being done in a respectful fashion.
Well, I think so too. And I mean, I think for a lot of people it's hard to look at things on the federal level or the provincial level, but when you're living in Dufferin County and you're talking about Orangeville and you live in Orangeville, you want to know that the people that are representing you and making these choices are focused for the betterment of Orangeville.
Completely agree. The other point you're just making me think about is we're accessible. Like, I think this council has been more accessible than any council that I've seen in the past. So, for example, if you're trying to reach us through social media, you know, you can get us. I wish you wouldn't do it. I wish you would reach out, send an email, phone us. Like, you know, I'll post my phone number on there. I want people to phone. People know where we live. I've had people stop by the house. That's not always
Really?
ideal, but
I was going to say, oh,
you know,
boy.
I like folks. I'm happy to chat with them. I guess the point is, you know, we're representing you, and you have every right to have access to us.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. I mean, I will agree that I found, you know, that people are more accessible, and even online, where I know you're saying it's not ideal, but that we're in such a society that everything just seems to be online.
I think if I could on that, so why I say it's not ideal is, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to weigh in, and if people are calling me out on social media, I'm going to respond. The thing that's difficult for us is, if you're going to ask me a question, lots of times the answer isn't necessarily simple. I have to give you context of what's happened in the past. I have to talk to you about the reasons that we got to where we are, and nothing's ever perfect. And you're looking for a 2 or 3 sentence tops response on a social media post. It's impossible.
Yes.
So lots of times I'll say, call me, or here's my email, let's get together, we'll have a conversation, and I'm happy to discuss it with folks and work it through. But on social media, it's difficult. Right?
I mean, it really is. And I mean, I look at certain things. I mean, I own a business in town. I do this show. I see a lot of things on social media. I used to do social media marketing all the time.
Yeah.
But I find that I don't participate. If I've got an opinion, that's not the way I want to do it, because it never comes across the way you want everyone to understand how you feel, or what the topic is about. So, and I'm talking about opinions now. I'm not talking about facts, like of things that have happened in the past and the way that you do it. But it's very hard, because somebody can, and then you'll have somebody with a different opinion, or taking what you said in a different context, and then the conversation just goes in a different diagonal. It just doesn't stay. I find it difficult.
I think one of the things that I find difficult, maybe frustrating even, is people will say things to me, and they can be quite aggressive or to the point in their commentary. And the truth is, I have less freedom than everybody else, right? I mean, council has less freedom than everybody else. We have a responsibility to certain things, and there's certain things that we're just not going to talk about on social media.
Of course.
It would be inappropriate. It would be the detriment of the town to talk about them. And an example would be is, even if I think something is terrible, awful, it's inappropriate for me to offer that. You know, you have a responsibility to the town as a representative to, you know, represent in the most positive way you possibly can. So I'm limited in how I can interact, and people maybe think that's odd, but if you step back and think about it, it's completely true. And I think people would be disappointed if I was unprofessional on there, because I'm representing them. They don't want to hear me go off or lose my temper.
Absolutely. You want to have somebody that's representing.
But I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You want somebody who's representing you to be professional.
Exactly.
To be top of mind, like whatever the topic is, be top of mind and be aware of what's happening, and how there are so many different angles to look at certain things. You want people that know how to address things properly.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I think too with that is, people can say whatever they want, and that's their right to do so. And I chose to represent my community and do this role, so it's something that I am prepared to deal with, right? So if I see some negative commentary about myself or a fellow councillor, I mean, that's
it's
sort
all
of
part
what
and parcel.
It's part and parcel. I don't love it. It doesn't make you feel good. Like, we've got feelings too, but that's
don't be silly.
That's what we do. Like,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And there's some odd things that happen on there for sure.
It is. So, I mean, you have to take anything that you read on the internet with a grain of salt, and then you know, approach it with gaining knowledge and creating awareness, and you know, doing those types of things so that you can make those uniform
But just last thing on this, my message to people would be, reach out to us. Like, we live in the same community. We're only 30,000 people. Like, if you're in a large area, Orangeville would be a community suburb. It wouldn't be, you know, it's it's a large amount of people in a small area. We're only 15 kilometers square. Just reach out. You know, you'll get a response.
Yeah, absolutely.
It may not be same day, but you'll get a response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the things that are happening in the community. And one of the things that is of interest and people talk about too is internet availability for high-speed internet and all the fiber optics and all the things that are happening. So tell us a little bit about what's happening in the community.
So this is great. So personally, I'm at home working quite a bit now post-COVID. The internet in our town is suboptimal. I think everyone would agree with that. There's some areas that don't have strong signals, and it makes doing business in town difficult. So Whiteman came into town and has agreed to provide the infrastructure for, a high-speed fiber optic network, which I think is going to be amazing. They're installing it now in different subdivisions. They're going to be done with the town by the end of the year, which is going to be wonderful. There has, however, been some issues with properties as they've gone and tried to put the wires in and whatnot.
Okay.
So some driveways have been damaged, some grass has been dug up, that sort of thing. So, as an example, Settlers Creek was recently, there was numerous issues over there. People got in touch with me, they got in touch with the town, Whiteman was involved, and these people are professionals. They want our business. They want us to sign up with their business when they're done. And they're fixing these problems, and they're doing it in a very forthright way. I got to be honest with you, I'm super impressed with them. They've been great. So we've had some problems for sure. They're fixing it at their expense. If you're having issues and you're feeling like you're not getting anywhere, please feel free to reach out to whomever you're comfortable with on council. If you don't know anybody, feel free to reach out to me. I've got all the contacts, and they've been wonderful.
Well, that's
Whiteman has.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's good to hear. So, well, we're going to jump from that because I just had a few questions about kind of the future of recreation, what's happening with Tony Rose, and what's happening.
Yeah, so Tony Rose is a problem for sure. Okay. It is at the end of its life is where we're at. I have been very open with saying I don't want to put a dime into the building.
Okay.
It's old, it's antiquated, there's massive issues with it, right? We won't get into the pool. I know you discussed that previously with the mayor, but for example, Tony Rose B, if we've got hockey parents that are watching this, that whole cooling system underneath is awful. It needs to be dug out and redone. Why would we spend money on a new cooling system when we know that the building needs to come down?
Right.
The change rooms open up so that basically when you open up the door, you look right into the change room. It's antiquated. So you think about it, you could have a group of men that are changing in that room, the door opens and people are seeing things that they maybe shouldn't see. On top of that, those change rooms are too small. We're larger people now and you don't fit into those areas. The building itself needs work. So to me, over time, what we're going to do is we're going to make some private partnerships with different groups, TBC to determine exactly who those are going to be and what's going to happen. And long term, that building is going to have to be rebuilt.
Right.
But to think about it, like when Alder Street was built, and it's 25 years ago now, it was around $22 million to build that arena.
Right.
Today, do you have any idea what an arena?
I can't even imagine.
North of $100 million to build an arena.
Yeah.
At 30 million people in our town, we don't have the funds to do that. So we need help from our provincial friends, our federal friends, partnerships with other folks. We need the other municipalities in our areas, Mono in particular. Mono uses our facilities. They need to help with the capital costs of those facilities.
Right.
And I'm not here grandstanding in any kind of way, but if you don't contribute, you're not going to be welcome to use them.
Absolutely.
So the Orangeville taxpayer has paid money for the rest of the areas for a long period of time, and you wonder why our taxes are high and theirs aren't. There's one contributing factor to it, is that we've had the infrastructure, they don't, and we've been generous in allowing them to use the facilities.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the community. We offer you the platform to broadcast your content to a wider audience. And the best part, it's completely free. Don't miss this opportunity to share your vision and engage with viewers. Find out how Rogers TV can transform your content journey today.
The Colts homestand continues on with the Brampton Steelheads coming to Barrie. Steelheads versus Colts, Thursday on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Dufferin Life. If you're just tuning in, as always, you're tuning in at a really great time. So we're discussing what's happening in Orangeville, a few of the different topics that have come up. Joining me today, of course, is Deputy Mayor of Orangeville, Todd Taylor. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Teena.
I'm so glad that you're here. And so we were just speaking about the future of Tony Rose. So I'm going to let you just kind of do a little bit of a recap, and then we'll see where we're.
Yeah, so it would be my contention if it was up to me, we wouldn't put another dime into Tony Rose.
Okay.
The building is antiquated and old. I don't know that it needs to completely come down, but portions of it are going to come down. It needs to be rebuilt and redone. So we're going to do public-private partnerships. YMCA could be a partner. The Board of Education could be a partner. I see that whole swath of land changing in a significant way over the next period of time. But we're going to need help from the federal government and the provincial government to build this.
Right.
Because it's a very expensive endeavor.
Yeah,
so
you were saying that right before we went to break, that it's like well over $100 million to put in.
It'd be over $100 million to build a facility.
Wow.
So that's the next piece. We'll have to figure that out as we go.
Yes, yeah. And then when you figure it out, you can come back on and share it with us.
Well, it's going to be an interesting piece for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the water shortages and things that have been happening over the summer and kind of the story behind those.
Right. So the water shortage is a frustrating thing, and I know people were really upset about that. We had to put water restrictions in this year, and thankfully it was one of the rainiest summers I think we've ever had in Orangeville. But the issue is our pump stations are not pumping the same amount of water that they used to pump.
Okay.
So those stations can be re-drilled, and we're looking into re-drilling them. And we've had a new pump station come on.
Okay.
Now, it's not on yet, and so that will help with the issues. Why isn't it on? Why have you delayed this so much and we got ourselves in this spot? Under the new rules since Walkerton, and we're actually the first municipality to put in a new system, it takes a long time to jump through the provincial hoops and make sure you've got all of the approvals to be able to do that. So once that's on, and we anticipate it being on shortly, and the old wells are drilled, we should be fine again.
Okay.
There is no correlation between development and the wells. It was just a period of time, and what it is we can't have everybody filling their pool, watering their lawns, and have the pumps in the situation that they were in over this summer.
Okay.
So once we're through this, we'll go back to the way we used to be, and life will be grand. But this summer was an exception for sure, and thankfully nothing occurred, right? But it could be at the point, like if it drained, you can't manufacture water. So either you've got it or you don't. And I know there's lots of complaints about Orangeville water. We are groundwater, right? So it all comes up through. We're not off the lake like a lot of other places are.
Okay.
And there has been discussions about, could we put a pipe in from the lake? It's just cost prohibitive, and it's probably never going to happen.
Right.
So we are what we are.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here to talk about these things, because a lot of what I do on the show is I want to create awareness, but it's a learning curve for me as well, because you're telling me this, where the water's coming from, and I'm just thinking, yeah, like it makes sense when you're saying it, but you don't when you're that person saying, oh, I can't water my lawn today, or my lawn looks brown, or whatever it happens to be. You're thinking, well, we should have enough water, and why don't we? But there's reasons behind it, and very good reasons behind it. Which
Orangeville will cap out around, I think it's 37-ish thousand people, and the reason we'll cap out is because we don't have the wastewater facility, and we don't have the water supply, and we don't have the land.
Right.
But even if we had the land, we don't have the water. So we'll cap out at 37,000 people. We're at 31 and change now, so we're not that much further away.
We're growing at a rapid pace. I've been here, oh my goodness, I guess now 27 years, 20, I don't know, something like that. And the amount of change that I've just seen in that time has been phenomenal.
I agree.
Yeah. but we're in a great community, and I say that all the time. Like I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
It's a blessing to be here for sure.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
All right. So one of the topics I know nothing about, which you're going to create that awareness for me and as well for other people. I heard information about the speed cameras they're coming to town.
Yeah, so I brought that forward. The mayor was very supportive of me doing so, and council ultimately was supportive as well. Candidly, the largest complaint I would get from residents, other than taxes, is speeding and safety, right?
Okay.
So everybody thinks that cars are speeding through their area. We have done studies. We have the data on what roads are a problem and what roads aren't. In the motion that I put forward, I suggested that Spencer Avenue and Settlers Creek was a problem.
Okay.
And I firmly believe that it's a problem. I think there's others too, but let's just talk about one.
Okay.
So my suggestion was, let's start there. And why you would start there is because it's a school safety zone. And based on provincial regulations, a speed camera has to be put in a safety zone.
Okay.
It can't be anywhere else. Like, we can't put it in front of your house because it's not a safety zone.
Okay.
Right? So it has, that's one of the big pieces of it is. So what the motion is for staff to go back and research and find out, A, how much they are, and then what the parameters would be and how we would implement. So staff has to come back with a report. They're going to do that by the end of the year. And my hope is by spring, summer, we've got some cameras out in the town, and not necessarily just Settlers Creek. You know, we would go around the town to determine where the problems are, and people will get tickets. And you know, I'm not going to have a lot of sympathy for it. I mean, I hate to sound tough and fed up, but realistically, like, there's speed limits throughout town, and if people aren't respecting them, you're going to pay.
Yeah.
You don't get points. It's just a cash grab.
Okay.
And before people think, where's that money going? The town's going to make so much money. Maybe. The reality is to buy the speed cameras, it's a cost. So preliminary idea is it'll be about $50,000 a camera to have it up and running and protected and whatnot and monitored. So that will take a while to offset the cost for it. This isn't an enriching exercise for the town. This is a safety initiative that a fed-up councillor put forward, and the rest of the fed-up councillors agreed that this is a problem and we need to address it. So if you don't speed, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No problem. But if you do, you're going to pay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a safety issue, and I'm going back many, many years when I used to work for a laser printer company back in the day, and the government itself was just looking into getting cameras. And I remember before I was leaving that industry, one of my biggest deals was selling these, I can't even remember what they're called now, but these cameras that they were going to use as test pilots for the whole speed camera thing.
Okay.
So that goes back a long way.
Just so people are like, I've got my eye on Cedar Drive. I'm thinking about First Ave, Zina Street, Elizabeth Street, Alder Street, Spencer Avenue. That's just off the top of my head. I mean, if we went deeper, I mean, you could come up with another 10 very quickly, right? We've got an issue here. Yeah. And so we need to address it, and lots of ways to teach people a lesson. It's done through your wallet. So, yeah, send me a nasty note. I'm the guy. But yeah, you're going to pay.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and it's great. I mean, taking ownership of, you know, and being the person behind it, and telling people to come out to you and speak to you about it and talk to you about it is part of it, right?
Well, see, just to be clear, it hasn't been approved officially. All council did was say, how much is it going to cost, and what are the parameters of it? And so once we have that information, we'll come back and make a decision on whether we're going to implement. But I would hope we'll be implementing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, news for a lot of people too, because until we started talking about it, I wasn't even aware it was something that was put forward. And I want to talk about that a little bit, about what's going on in council too, because I lead such a crazy life, and I don't get a chance to go to council meetings and that sort of thing and kind of hear what's going on. What is the best way for people to get involved with what's happening in the community?
You know what? I love that question. One of the first thoughts that I have to answer that is, we're halfway through our mandate now. So we have a mandate of every 4 years, and realistically you could say, oh, hey, those guys are power hungry or egomaniacs and just want to be part of council. The reality is, I got involved because I thought that I could do a better job than the people that were there, and I'm sorry to the people that were there, but that's the way I felt, and I felt like there was a need and I could help. At a certain point, you know, my existence on council is not going to be there. This is not a lifetime position. it would be so great if caring community members would get involved, be part of committees that the town is, utilizing, and then think about running for council themselves. And so I've reached out to people who I think are great community leaders and said, boy, I think you'd be good for council. We're all replaceable and we should be replaced. Like, there's a shelf life on all of us, right? And
right.
So we'll see. As long as you've got passion, I guess, keep signing up. But we need new people to think about running and being good community stewards for the town that we all live in. You mentioned 27. I moved here in 2002. I honestly thought we'd be here 3 or 4 years and we'd be moving on, and here we are. I raised my kids here, and Orangeville's going to be a big part of my life, and you care about it. You want it to do well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the seat doesn't have to be held by me. It can be held by other people who are caring and compassionate and knowledgeable and want to enact change. Yeah. So if anybody has questions about that, I'd be happy to help. Let's have a coffee, let's talk about it, and if I can help somebody get started, I'd be pleased to do that. But there's committees now that need people, and they're all online. You can see that on the town website. And if you got questions, just reach out to any member of council and they'd be happy to tell you.
Yeah, and if you're curious to get information, you can watch town council meetings here on Rogers TV as well. So don't please check that out as well. If you're just thinking, well, that just sparked a little bit of a light, like maybe I would want to get involved in something. So maybe that's a way to do it, is to start to watch the meetings and just see where those go, and then speak to someone like you, and then take it from there.
The sensitive subject is you do get paid to do it, but I can tell you it's not enough to raise your family. You don't do it because you think that you're going to enrich yourself, because that is not the case. Do it because you care about your town and about your community, and you want to make things better, and put the time in. But it's time consuming,
no
but
doubt.
It's so rewarding. Like, it's just great.
I mean, I've been on several committees over the years, and I think, and we've just got a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that we touch on it. Like, really do reach out. Like, if you're looking for something to do or a way to be a part of the community, this is the way to do it. Like, volunteer some of your time and see what interests you, because there are so many different committees.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and
agreed. And that's how you get your start, and then potentially be interested in council. But at council, like, people don't see what goes on behind the scenes, but there's a lot of laptop time.
Right.
You're responding to people, but you're also reading and trying to understand documentation and, go into the issues, and that's your obligation to do so. But I guess maybe I'm a political geek because I find it super interesting. Like, it's not a challenge for me to do it because I enjoy it. It's interesting to me to go through the issues and find out what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I mean, we should. I will probably look to have other councillors come on the show. I know we've had Mayor Post on a few times, but it's. I think just the one-on-one. Like, I'm really appreciating what we're talking about, and because I love the community, and I try to be as big of a part of the community as I can be with my schedule and everything that I do. And I think it's really important that if you might have that inkling that you start to do your research and just speak to the different councillors and find out what it's about, because unfortunately we're so close to running out of time, and we could probably still talk for another half an hour or two.
If I could, Teena, I would love to see Councillor Andrews on here. He's on the Economic Development Committee. They do great things. Councillor Prendergast is on the Library Committee. It would be amazing to hear what she has to say.
Yeah, well, I will definitely do that. Yeah.
And then if I could, Councillor Sherwood too is involved in quite a few different things as well.
Yes,
and
she is,
all of them offer great perspectives, and they're such intelligent, passionate people that the community should hear what they have to say. So it'd be great. I'll watch your show and see what they're doing.
Well, you should be watching my show every time, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today.
It was truly my pleasure, and thank you for tuning in. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.